A president assassinated. I'm Andrea Sankey, and today on the Newsmakers.
Jovenel Moise was assassinated this morning at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning at his home.
Haiti's stability is in question after President Jovenel Moise is shot and killed in his home. The Caribbean nation is now under martial law as police search for suspects and a motive. Plus, the ticking time bomb of overpopulation. As the planet speeds towards 8 billion inhabitants, what are the risks of having too many people on Earth? And does managing the rate of growth risk violating human rights? That's coming up on the Newsmakers. A two-week state of emergency has been declared in Haiti following Wednesday's pre-dawn assassination of President Jovenel Moise. Reports say gunmen masquerading as U.S. drug enforcement agents stormed the president's home, killing him and critically wounding Haiti's First Lady Martine Moise. Police say 4 suspects were killed in a shootout. Another 2 have been arrested, but no word yet on their names or nationalities. Now, President Moise often spoke of dark forces driving unrest in his country, led by politicians and oligarchs unhappy with his attempt to rewrite the Constitution and clean up corruption. Almost immediately after taking office in 2017, Moise faced nationwide protests and calls for his resignation, first over allegations of corruption and mismanagement of the economy, and later over what some saw as his increasing authoritarian style. Moise spent the last few months waging a political war on the opposition over the terms of his presidency. Opponents argued that he should have stepped down in February, despite both the U.S. and UN agreeing his term should continue into 2022. In February, Moise arrested 20 people, including high-level government officials he said were plotting to kill him and overthrow the government. Now, Haiti has seen decades of dictatorships and instability. Gang warfare and drug trafficking have flourished alongside a tanking economy and a healthcare crisis worsened by COVID-19. Interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph has declared a state of siege, saying he hopes his country, the poorest in the Americas, will not spiral out of control. But without a functional parliament and an unclear line of succession, chaos might be hard to avoid.
Tout monde, quelle que soit tendance politique,
Everybody, whatever the political tendencies, whatever the political ideologies, everybody in the country is in shock. Because quite simply, we did not expect, nobody had anticipated this barbaric act.
Joining me now from Washington is Bouchie Edmond. He is the Haitian ambassador to the United States and the former foreign minister of Haiti. Thank you so much for being with us, and my sincerest condolences for what's happened. We don't know who's behind this, but you must have your suspicions. You know, who stands to actually benefit from this assassination?
Hopefully, I do hope those investigations of the national police will reveal exactly what occurred, who was behind this. But clearly, it is very important to say that we all know that President Moise had a lot of political enemies. So now it's a matter of time. I just don't want to speculate too much. I will prefer to leave it to the investigations. Hopefully, some details will be revealed and we will know exactly what went wrong.
Right, understood. I know there is an investigation, of course, underway, but I just had to know perhaps where your own suspicions did stand. But right now that what has happened, there are concerns that Haiti could actually descend into violence and chaos, even spiral out of control, because of the political vacuum that's now been created. So what are your fears right now for your country?
I believe my fears, as you well pointed out, we do hope this horrible event can be used as a unifying tool of all stakeholders, of all Haitian citizens, to make sure that we take care of the situation despite that, you know, a lot of people have been shocked and a lot of people couldn't believe what happened. But the most important thing is, I do hope leaders, authorities, opposition leaders, or civil society leaders, everybody will make use of this as a way to find reconciliation and unity between us, and so we can save this country, because it's the most important thing. Our forefathers left us this legacy, this country. We have the moral duty to make sure that we keep it and we save it. But violence has never been the solution and will never be.
Right. I understand the country is in a state of shock right now. The silver lining could possibly be what you're describing, that in the face of tragedy like this, the Haitian people could come together and seize this opportunity, you know, for the politicians in particular to start working in harmony and help Haiti heal and improve. But some people are actually saying that's just not likely to happen, and that there should be some sort of international, call it an intervention if you'd like, or assistance at the very least. Would you be welcome to the idea of international assistance coming in to help keep Haiti stable at this point?
Probably it's a real difficult question, first of all, as a citizen, Haitian citizens, before considering I'm an ambassador. It is a very difficult position or situation to accept and to see foreign troops or foreign things on your territory. But at the end of the day, there is a reality. The reality is, there is a security issue, and I do believe our national police is overwhelmed, is really overwhelmed, and it's very difficult for them to control what's going on. For instance, the fight between gangs or dangerous has been. And a lot of police officers have been killed, and a lot of kidnappings. But now we've not having any kidnappings for the last 2 months, but it was something endemic, and I do believe it's very important. So, in this kind of situation, as a member of the international community, I don't think that will be a negative thing to have assistance of the international communities and international partners, because there is something which is very important to us, and I believe that was the wish of President Moise, is to see him replaced by an elected president. Okay. Therefore, it's very important, if we do want to have elections, want to have a peaceful environment created, it's very important for us to work with international partners. It could be a kind of assistance, it could be any means, but the most important thing is, we do hope the Haitian authorities and other international partners, and they will assess the situation and see how best they can be useful.
Right. It is unfortunate, though, that the history of foreign intervention, not least from United Nations troops, doesn't have the best history in Haiti. But yes, as far as an election is concerned, international monitors and help organizers, I imagine, would be quite a benefit to Haiti right now, because an election could help ease a lot of the political tension, from what I understand from you. But I have to ask you this. I mean, Haiti is now under a state of siege or martial law declared by the Prime Minister, which actually should have been declared by Parliament, but currently there is no Parliament. Does that make things safer, this state of siege, or could it potentially make Haitians angrier?
I believe because it is a very volatile situation. I do believe this decision came as a matter of prudence, because we need to give the national police and the armed forces space, so they could have carried out the investigation, and they would have made sure that the public order is under control, and if there was any case to restore order, all those things. But I don't see it as a martial law. I prefer to say that it has been a very wise decision in terms of trying to keep the security situation under control and to make sure that the calm comes back and to make sure that people very soon will be able to go out and deal with their daily business. So I understand it could have been the parliament, but unfortunately, we don't have any parliament in function now. We only have 10 senators. They don't have quorum. They cannot decide anything. But that's one of the reasons we believe it's very important to think about the electoral process, because it's time now to have all bodies, all branches of the state, the legislatives, the executives, and all bunches, they have to have elections so they can be replaced and have new persons. So therefore, it's very important.
What is your instinct telling you, though? Do you think you will have a safe election in September?
Oh, listen, it's not a matter for me to decide. I will leave it to the Electoral Council and the Haitian authorities and all stakeholders to have a conversation, to have a dialogue. So they could, because I understand at this point of time, this juncture, it's very important for the authorities to sit down, to meet with all stakeholders, all walk of life of the society, so they can sit down and find a best way out. But I just don't want to speculate on the date. And of course, there is an electoral calendar for September 26, but it's up to Electoral Council and the authorities to examine, to assess, and see how they want to move forward with the elections.
Right.
But for now, the most important thing is what we need to keep in mind. It's important for all stakeholders to come together, even in a situation of deep sadness, and to come together and see how they can get a solution.
Deep sadness and uncertainty, because as you mentioned, I mean, Haiti has always had issues with crime, but kidnappings have increased exponentially in the past 4 years. The murder rate has jumped. Many say Jovenel Moise was to blame in part for embracing certain gangs that have almost terrorized Haiti and use them to his advantage. So can it get better now? Because it seems that gangs and criminals working sometimes, allegedly, I should say, alongside politicians, actually have more power than the police.
Listen, in a political battle, there will be many arguments. There will be many talking points, one against other. But the most important thing is, it's very difficult to prove that there was such a link between the president and those gangs. But at the same time, we do know those gangs, they have patrons and they have financiers, and therefore it's very difficult to accept and to prove that. But at the end of the day, there is a reality. The reality is there are a lot of gangs, and we need to root them out. It's very important to do that. And therefore, we need to find a way to strengthen our national police, to give them more means, to give them more equipment, so they can fight against the gangs and root out the gangs, so they will create a better, peaceful environment for the people. This is really has to be the objective, is to create a better environment for the people, so that people can do, and deal with their daily business and participate in everything, and particularly make sure they are ready to participate in the electoral process.
Okay, it's a challenge indeed, but hopefully Haiti can meet it together. Thank you so much.
It's a challenge, but I do believe Haitians, when we come together, we can do miracle. We can get over it, because this country, we cannot let it go like this. We have a responsibility, a moral duty to save our country and left our forefathers to us.
Boshi Edmond, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us on TRT World. We greatly appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, the United Nations is raising the alarm about the number of people on our planet. This Sunday is the UN's World Population Day. It's intended to draw attention to the challenges of an ever-growing population, including increases in poverty, unemployment, malnutrition, and conflict. Now, those concerns used to exist on the fringes, along with radical solutions for population control. But as more children are born, more researchers warn that overpopulation poses a serious threat. In a moment, we'll debate how much trouble we might be in, but first, a look at the growing pressure on our environment. Well, to debate whether our ever-growing human population is a good thing or a factor bringing about our own demise, I'm joined from Fort Collins, Colorado, by Philip Cafaro, senior researcher co-leading the Overpopulation Project and a professor of philosophy at Colorado State University. And in Front Royal, Virginia, we have Christopher Mannion, leading researcher at the Population Research Institute. Thanks both so much for being with me. Greatly appreciated. Phil, let me begin with you. Earth really has sustained our population growth since, we first appeared on this planet. So why do you think we're about to reach the threshold, and cross over into non-sustainability with our population?
Good to be with you, Andrea. I think we've got good evidence that we passed the threshold of sustainability some time ago. We have global climate change, which is wreaking all kinds of havoc in terms of large fires and larger storms, etc. We have mass species extinction, biodiversity loss around the world. We have large dead zones at the mouths of many of the world's great rivers. And all of these are a function of our population and too many people and an economy that's gotten too large for the earth. So I think the evidence is there, and it's accumulating daily and weekly, that there are simply too many of us. And we have to start thinking not in terms of expanding, as we have been for the past several centuries, but limiting our impacts.
Okay. But is one of your suggestions basically we have to stop reproducing?
Well, we have to stop reproducing so enthusiastically. We have to start, as many people around the world realize, we have to start thinking in terms of having 1 or 2 children so that we can gradually and humanely ratchet back our numbers, as opposed to having large families the way we used to.
Okay. Christopher Mannion, you believe we've got, plenty of room and plenty of time.
Well, yeah, I don't think the problem is overpopulation. Frankly, underpopulation is the threat. We need more people, not fewer, if we want to continue to grow prosperity in the world. I am not an advocate of the environmentalist approach to world doom in 12 years or 20. The world has had changing climate, changing weather every week, every year, and every century. No, in the long run, people are the world's greatest asset. We can't have progress without them. And human ingenuity is the key to prosperity, as well as freedom. And that ingenuity is under fire. The problem is not population. The problem is population controllers, in the sense that political governments and rulers and elites want to continue in their roles as the power brokers, and the population is either going to agree and be subdued, or frankly, they're going to have to control it.
Okay.
I'm the youngest of 5 children, and I don't know who had the right to tell my parents that my birth as number 5 contributed to overpopulation. It's ridiculous.
Okay, Phil, countries actually, I mean, leading economies like Japan and Italy would agree with a lot of what Christopher was saying there. I mean, they're actually paying their citizens to have more children. Is that counterproductive?
I think it is at this point, although I understand why countries with shrinking populations are concerned about it. I mean, it does cause issues. You might be worried that you won't have enough workers to support your retirees, et cetera, and those are real worries. On the other hand, if you say, well, we always need to have more people, then that's a problem simply because we have a finite space we have finite space on this planet to support ourselves. So it's a question of which you think is the harder problem to solve: rejiggering Social Security issues, or fitting in space for ever more people. And again, I think the scientists are relatively clear on this. If you look at what the IPCC says about what's causing global climate change and the disruption of the world's climate, they say there are 2 main factors: growing populations and growing consumption. So we've got to make some hard choices about this. And again, I don't think you need to necessarily have the government controlling people's population decisions. I think it's a matter of giving people the wherewithal to choose how many children to have.
Okay. Let me ask Christopher, some scientists are actually saying humans, we are a species, like all species on this earth, but we are an invasive species. We're the only ones to have, engineered our way out of all natural population controls, including food shortages, water shortages, territory shortages, and even disease. Do you think that, I don't know, is that our right as human beings to continue to defy what would be natural for all other species on this planet, to limit their populations?
Well, let's talk about natural. It appears that if the species is breaking out, we're talking here in a solely materialist approach. I am not a materialist. I believe that man has a nature and a calling to prosper, to be contributing to the flourishing of humanity, and every culture has a goal for the people in that culture that is beyond economics, beyond material. And one has to inquire, when scientists have a view of the primary causes, as to what their priorities are. If their priorities are strictly the maintenance of material worth in the world, they are missing the most important aspect of human nature, which is the desire to be free and to prosper. It has nothing to do with us as just another piece of.
I have to ask you, as far as prospering is concerned, I mean, there is a lot of worry right now that the children born from kind of here on out, we're not creating the kinds of jobs that they are going to be able to prosper with. Everything's moving toward automation, and you're seeing more and more young people being taken care of by their parents because there just isn't enough money and good jobs to go around. Does that not worry you a bit, that there just won't be a job market for the millions more children that are being born, even in the United States?
Well, let's talk about space. There's plenty of space in the United States. Let's talk about ingenuity. There's plenty of ingenuity here. And the governments, especially after lockdowns and concentration of power by certain elites in power, including big business, to abuse populations, that does not account and amount to an argument for controlling the population, either voluntarily by inviting people not to have children, or involuntarily, where it always winds up. Take a look at China, and you see what happens when we have too many children, and now suddenly they don't have enough.
Understood.
Doesn't
Philip,
work.
We just have a minute left. Let me get your final thoughts here.
Sure. There are many poor people around the world who don't have the wherewithal to choose how many children to have in their families. If we could get family planning and contraception to everyone around the world who wants and needs it, we have the opportunity to voluntarily solve our population problems. And that would improve people's lives, and it would allow us to share some of this beautiful earth with all the other species that we currently share it with. If we fail to do that, we're looking at a poorer and a depauperate world.
Okay. Phil Cafaro and Christopher Mannion, thank you both so much for joining us on The Newsmakers. Greatly appreciate your time, and to our viewers, of course, for being with us as well. We'll see you next time.